too. There's two of them. But anyways, that's a different topic than today.
Yeah, well, Kathy's not here yet, so I was kind of waiting for her, but I think we'll go ahead and get it kicked off here. So I'd like to welcome everybody to our June Lunch and Learn. Last time I attended one of these, I was in a car traveling over actually I had breakfast with Dr. Hallak that day and was headed over to Tri-Cities from Walla Walla area, and the last couple after that I couldn't attend. But anyways, welcome. We are going to be continuing to do this monthly moving forward for the rest of 2024, and hopefully we can, kick that off into 2025 as well. But let's go to the next one there, Daniel. Thank you. Daniel's running our PowerPoint for us right now. Gives him more control. So we had our convention a couple weeks ago, and coming up though, on August 16th is a golf tournament. On November 14th, we have our annual business meeting, location to be determined. And the Winter Gala, I'm not sure what I think that's going to be up north at the Angel of the Winds Casino. And then we have, we're going to have a regional networking, South September, excuse me. I think that's a fundraiser to bring socks for something. Tony Sheeler will know all about that. So anyway, there's the dates for the Lunch and Learns coming up. July 16th, August 20th, September 17th, October 15th, November 19th, December 17th. So mark your calendar, save your spots, sign up on the website, and get registered for those. Next one, Daniel. And I'd like to welcome a gentleman who you guys should have met at our convention, but due to family circumstances, he wasn't able to make it. But I've known Dr. Hallak, Daniel Hallak, for, I'm going to say 3 years now, I think.
I think it might even be 4, Todd. It might even be 4.
Maybe 4. I have a tremendous amount of respect for this man. He every time I get to know him a little better, he's more capable of anything that I ever expected. And he's a great mind, and he's a part of WILD, Whole Intentional Leader Development, and they are front runners in the leadership industry, and they are a titanium member of our association. They're a titanium member, so they are here to invest. They're all in with us. Dr. Hallak has chosen to do these lunch and learns for the rest of the year to bring significant value to those that want to learn about leadership. So, Dr. Hallak, I will turn it over to you.
I love it. Thank you, Todd. It's so good to be with you all, and I'm glad this is being recorded. I got a number of notes from folks who came to the conference who said, I can't make it today, but I want to watch the recording and join future ones. So I'm going to make a note, Todd, if you help me remember at the end of today, I'll be doing a couple other lunch and learns this summer, and I've got a series of topics that we thought could be valuable, but I'll ask everyone at the end of today if there's a topic around developing people and growing your business by growing your people that would be valuable. I'd love to hear that because we can likely bring that topic. So I'm going to make a note at the end of today, topics for the future, and we'll get into that. Today is around building trust and increasing productivity. And what I want to do is carry this forward from the conference. Like Todd said, I was so hoping to be at the conference. I look forward to being there next year. I had a family member pass away, and so I was unable to join. But I did get a chance to hear the vision that Todd laid out and get a sneak peek at what happened at the conference. And so I hope that this carries over from what you heard and even from the keynote from Dr. McKenna for those of you who were there. At WILD, our tagline is that leadership equals trust. And so trust is a big part of everything that we do. And a couple things I think that hopefully help us get the most out of our time today. One, this is not a test. And so I'm going to make this interactive. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you to engage in the chat with me. There might be moments I ask you to take yourself off mute and share your experience. I've got some content to share, but this is not just about me giving our perspective, even though we have tremendous amount of data and experience in helping organizations build trust across the trades and other industries. But no, this is not a test. So if I ask you to take yourself off mute and I ask you a question, I'm not looking for the right answer. I want your honest answer. Also, when it comes to developing trust and growing our businesses, it often starts with ourselves. And so anything I share today that's about what you can do for your people, know that it's going to start with you before you can take it out to them. And when it comes to building trust and increasing productivity, we often need to take a risk. It doesn't have to be a big risk, but even a calculated risk to be able to take that first step in trust building can often be critical. So let me set up the stage for why trust. And then I've got a couple questions to ask you and a big idea I'm going to share, followed by 5 keys to growing trust that increases productivity. That's where we're going to go today, and we're going to have dialogue along the way. So like I said, I'll pause and ask you questions, and we'll be engaging together as we go. Icebergs are familiar. Anytime you talk about leadership, someone brings up an iceberg at some point because it's a great picture that what is often unseen, the invisible, the things below the surface of the water, it's usually the majority of the iceberg or anything else in life. And the invisible things often drive the visible. And so I show this trust iceberg to help us level set that when it comes to our businesses or relationships, we tend to spend a majority of our time focusing on the visible 10%. Performance, engagement. Are we innovating? Are we doing things well? Are we getting those results? Are those KPIs getting checked off? What systems and processes are in place? What do we see? We spend a lot of our time there. And that's critical because that's what we get rewarded on. And that's what we're building. All of us are building something in the businesses that we run. And yet, we know this to be true in our businesses and in our personal lives, that it's the invisible stuff that blocks or unlocks the ability for everything else to happen. Trust is an invisible quality. When I look at PHCC and the relationships between members, if there are strong relationships, there's trust. The association is able to do innovative things and flourish and support each other. When trust is not there, people are looking at each other sideways. I live in Walla Walla, Washington, other side of the state. And out here, the wine country is one of the big industries. And it's amazing if you get to know anyone in the wine industry out here, they support each other. I just met a new vineyard owner who said he's got several vineyards around him who, when they discovered that he's a new guy and doesn't have all the equipment he should have bought, they just lent it to him and brought extra equipment over. Like that's trust. That's the visible manifestation. But it's because they have trust and they're focused on building the region, not just building their own business. They know that a stronger region will create stronger business for them. Trust is invisible. Motivation is invisible. If you think of any one of your children or your employees, if they're motivated, you can see the results of that. But what actually motivates them is invisible to you. And it takes a little bit of excavation and digging to figure it out. Self-awareness, culture's invisible quality that drives those things. And so we need to pay attention to the visible and the invisible. And so today we're going to be talking about productivity. Can we get stuff done? Can our people be productive? Can they get great throughput? That's the visible. And what are the invisible drivers of trust that can help reduce that friction and accelerate the ability for that productivity to happen? So if you take nothing else from today, know this: we cannot move the visible without paying attention to the invisible. And if we want the stuff above the line, we have to pay attention to the stuff below the line as well. So here's my first question for you. Don't forget, this is not a test, so I'm not looking for your right or wrong answer, but I'd love to have your answer. I'm going to ask you to take 60 seconds, put your response in the chat. If you look on the bottom of your screen, you should have a little cartoon dialog box that says chat. If you click on that, I'm going to give you 60 seconds. And yes, Tammy, PHCC should have a wine party. And Todd, you may as well do it in Walla Walla. Why not? But so a couple of you have found the chat. I love that. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Could you put your answer in the chat? think about your business, whether it be internally with your team, whether it be externally with your vendors and suppliers, or with your clients, or between businesses, other PHCC businesses. Think of your business inside or out. What would change if in your business, if there were deeper levels of trust? I'm gonna put a timer on for 60 seconds. Put your answer in, and I'm gonna ask a couple of you to come off mute and share the deeper story. All right, 60 seconds, timer's on. All right, that's about 30 seconds. Go ahead and put your answer in if you haven't. If you put something in, you're welcome to double click and add a second comment. That's fine. I'll give you 30 more seconds. I'd love to hear what would change if there are deeper levels of trust in your business. And I'll start reading some of these out. I'm going to ask a couple of you to come off mute and share a little bit more about that. That's going to set the tone for this conversation today. Nicole says more efficiency. Tammy, a better work environment for sure. Dennis, people stay and invest in themselves and the mission. So they don't just stay as dead weight. They stay to invest in themselves and the mission. I love that. Kathy, less unnecessary personal conflicts inside and outside the business. Can I get an amen? I think all of us want a little bit of that in our businesses. Todd, healthy culture, supporting one another in our and their strengths and weaknesses. I love it. Hey, I'm asking a couple of you to come off mute. Nicole, efficiency is really close to productivity. Could you share a little bit more about when you think of deeper levels of trust, what does that look like, and how would that impact efficiency? I'd love to hear.
I guess what I'm referring to is just trusting that others are doing their jobs as they need to be done. There's not so much double checking or questioning going on, so that we can work better as a team.
Yeah. So say, I love that. Say a little bit more about the efficiency. How does that actually make things efficient?
Timelines, being able to get back to customers in a more timely manner, just being able to get things right the first time.
Yeah, love it. I dig that. Thank you for sharing. Let's see here. I'm going to ask Dennis, say more about people staying and investing in themselves and the mission. What would, how does trust, what do you think of trust in your business? What comes to mind for you, and how does that tie to that?
Well, I always have included people in what I'm doing, so they know what we're up to, and make sure they like it and it resonates. And then as you invest yourself and they see you invest in yourself and they know what you're doing and why you're doing it, then they start to join you, and then you back them up, and it kind of becomes a circle upwards.
It's good. I love that. I like that ripple upwards, Dennis. Kathy, say a little bit more about the personal conflicts inside and outside the business. Nobody else has that issue in their businesses, right? Just Kathy? People with personal, okay, yeah, all of us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I think if we, as we deepen our level of trust, then we know people are coming from a place of care or compassion, or as Dennis says, fighting for the mission, that's where we're coming from. So we don't really need to, healthy conflict is fine, but people get hurt too easily when they don't know that, or they don't remember, or they haven't built to that level that we're all on the same team and working towards the same goals. So when that happens, it goes smoother.
Yeah. There's that makes sense too, right? When those personal conflicts are there, there's nothing that erodes productivity and getting stuff done than worrying about what someone else is thinking or feeling like you've been slighted. There's I'm trained as a psychologist, so I look up all sorts of nerdy things, and people have studied everything under the sun. It's amazing. People have done a lot of studies on what's called emotional labor. And I don't even need to define it. Like you just get it. You're like, oh, emotional labor. It sounds like Thanksgiving with those relatives I don't always like to see. Like I get it, right? But that's what you're describing is when there's a lot of emotional labor, people are all they're doing is they're working hard to keep their emotions in check, which means they're not working hard on getting stuff done, which is not what we want. It's just the bottom line there. So that's good, Kathy. Thank you. And then hey, Tammy, say more about a better work environment. You and Todd had similar there, the culture and the work environment. What is trust? What does deeper levels of trust in your business look like to you, and how do you see that working out in a better work environment?
Sure, I think everyone else expanded on it a lot better than what I did. To me, it means definitely supporting each other through our strengths and weaknesses and less drama.
Good. That's a great way to sum it up. Less drama. Thanks for sharing that. That gives a great level set. Let me give you my bottom line for today. Here's the bottom line, and I'm going to get into 5 ways to make this happen, and we're going to have some dialogue around it. The bottom line is this, the big idea. When you solve for trust, you decrease friction and simultaneously increase performance, productivity, and well-being. So whether we call it drama, conflict, I like to think of it as friction. I want to decrease the friction so things can move faster, they can move smoother, and we can get more stuff done. We tend to see that in our KPIs, but we tend to feel it in the level of trust in our business. So let me get into this and share. What I'm going to get into are things that we have a lot of data on and experience with either companies in the trades or other industries, because there's other things you can grab and borrow. And I'm going to ask you as I go through these 5, pick one that you could take away and start to do something with tomorrow. There's certainly a lot of ways that Wild can provide tools and resources on every single one of these things. Happy to get there, and I'll share one of the ways that we're going to be supporting PHCC as a Titanium member, because Todd challenged us at the conference to as partners or sponsors to be able to actually add value to the industry and to the association. So I'll share some of that helps with these things. But if you go through, just pick one thing that you might say, I'm gonna take this back today or tomorrow so that I can start decreasing that friction and increasing productivity. All right, so here's 5 ways to build trust and increase productivity. Number 1 is build a shared brain. Build a shared brain. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? It just so happens to be that right now is the NBA Finals season. It's going to be wrapping up soon, and I don't think Celtics have won yet. If you don't watch basketball, I'm sorry. It's the only sport that God invented, and so you should go watch basketball. All other sports are a derivative from basketball. I know I offended a couple of you. That's okay. It's just true. I can't make it up. But all joking aside, there's all sorts of great sports out there. You don't have to be a sports person to know that great teams, they almost operate as in unison. Like you watch a school of fish or a flock of birds move together in unison, or you think of the Blue Angels. Pick your team, pick your grouping of species, and they almost operate as if they are in sync. And that doesn't happen by accident. And so one of the things I love watching basketball is you see somebody make a pass when they're not looking, and you go, how did they know that team member was going to be right there? Well, they have practiced the plays so many times. They've got a shared brain. They know where things are going to be. They know where to pass because that person is going to be there. And you can take that in any single one of our businesses. I mean, imagine all the places. Kathy and I were chatting recently about it's a terrible metaphor, but I had to use it because it works. The pipeline of the customer journey and where there is value that leaks out of the pipes. Imagine the value leaks when you get a lead in the door and your dispatch can't actually convert it to a call. Or you get a call and they can't actually, they don't give the right information to your techs, and the techs show up and maybe they don't follow the same process as the last guy who was in a home. And there's so many places that value could leak and the ball could easily be dropped. And so building a shared brain It's about a couple things. It's certainly a system, process, procedure piece, but here's the but a lot of people get that right. Here's the trickier part. Is there a relational system for people? Again, we're talking about trust, that drama piece, that emotional labor, that the relational piece to help people move well and be productive. So we're connecting below the water to above the water. And the more that a team can quite literally be on the same wavelength, know what others are thinking, know how they're thinking, and where they're going to be on the court, to use the metaphor, the more trust is going to be streamlined and people will make amazing passes instead of dropping the ball. Let me give you one example of what that looks like. With a number of our clients, we have done something that we call a team charter, and our team has one as well. And it's basically the rules of engagement, the ground rules for how to be together. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And we've spent meaningful time to identify how are we going to be together, and have I actually connected and built the relationships so I know other people, I know how they're thinking and how they operate, so that we can actually move well together. So building a shared brain, it's both your systems and structures, but it's also the people, which leads to the second piece here. Get to know each other. It can be incredibly underrated. And I don't just mean putting on, going out to dinner, doing fun activities. Those things are great. And when teams do team building, they often do fun, frivolous activities that are meaningful, and they build camaraderie. Don't stop those, but they don't actually get people to know each other. So is there a way, a system, what way in your business do you have for people to understand things like what motivates the people around them? I've got a client later on today who we just recently did our trust index with, the survey that we're offering to PHCC members as a compliment for being a member. And one of the pieces of news I'm going to deliver to this CEO is that it's really clear from the data, people don't trust each other because they don't know each other. They don't know what each other ticks, what makes each other tick. And so they have conflict all the time. And so even just some simple rhythms and structures and systems to be able to understand what motivates, if I'm on Dennis's team, what motivates and drives Dennis? What are the skills and competencies that Kathy has, and where does she lack? What is the dreams that Todd has? How does Chris show up in high pressure situations? And what can I do to help her be her best self? I'm just making things up. Like, those are the types of conversations. If we can structure and create those, people get to know each other, and not just the, hey, I know you're tuning up your granddad's old Corvette. Like, that's knowing things about somebody, which is different than actually knowing somebody. And so a shared brain is great. You get on the same page, processes, procedures, and then layering on top of that, actually knowing the people and getting to know each other and getting them the opportunity to know you is powerful. I will say anecdotally, any work I've done with folks in the trades, there is almost never work to get to know each other, and even more rare for people to know their owner. So I'd even say, do your people know you? Do they know what motivates you, your long-term plan, and how they fit into it? Because if they don't, it's going to be hard for them to support you to be able to reach your dreams. And I'm making an assumption based on the people I've met at PHCC that your dreams also include their thriving and flourishing too. So it goes both ways. So number 2 is get to know each other. Number 3, I alluded to this a little bit with the shared brain, but create ground rules. If you show up to my house, you walk in the door, and you just come inside, I give you a glass of water, somebody in my family is going to let you know if you left your shoes on, because we are a definitive shoes off family. I know I've offended some of you. Some of you are like, basketball is the only sport and I have to take off my shoes in your house. Like, we're not friends anymore. I only like you because Todd said I should. But my point is, if you don't know the ground rules, you're going to break them. And we make assumptions all the time for people about what the rules of engagement in our business are. And even if you're, if you've got 10 businesses, in HVAC or plumbing, you all do your business a little bit different. So when you have new people come in, they're just going to operate the way that they know to operate, whether they've had good training or bad training. But they don't know they don't know the equivalent of take your shoes off at the door. So what I do when people come to my house, I try to be nice because I don't want to have to tell them, hey, take off your shoes on my wife's rug while they're on my wife's rug. I leave a bunch of shoes at the shoe rack outside the door, which is a cue to let them know. And if they come in, I'll tell them right away at the entrance, hey, just do you mind taking your shoes off? So super simple. And that's just a fun, easy personal example. But do we do that in our businesses? Do we have documented, here's our ways of being? And I don't just mean your values. I mean, these are the norms and expectations. When conflict happens, this is how we handle it. As an example, on the Wild team, one of our we call them rules of engagement. One of our rules is engagement is that we will fight well. And you can imagine when we say we're going to fight well, and we have a statement of what fighting well means, it comes with the assumption that we're going to have some disagreements and conflicts. So we've already acknowledged that, and then we've set out some rules for how we will disagree and conflict when those things come up. One of them is that we're not going to back channel and triangulate and go behind each other's back. And so because we've established that as a rule, if somebody does that, if I'm working with Chris and I'm like, Chris, do you know what's going on with Todd? Like, he's been wearing a blazer lately, and I just don't know. I don't know who he is anymore. Like, all of a sudden, what's the deal? She would say something like, first off, that's a really nice blazer that he's wearing. I'm sure she'd say that. But then, she'd also say, have you talked to Todd about that? Right? So she would know if we were on the same team because that ground rule has been established. All of you, I'm looking at your faces, have some quirks about you. I'm yet to meet an owner who doesn't have their own. Yeah, Dennis is like, what? I'm yet to meet an owner who doesn't have their own quirks. And you better believe, like, people figure them out. So if you can just call them out up front and let people know, like, hey, this is the funny way we do this. Just so you know, like, this is what it looks like to do work with us. And if they know before they join your team, that's awesome. So create the ground rules. And what we found the best teams do is the ground rules don't come from on high. The best teams, the team actually creates the ground rules and says, let's, again, back to the invisible, making visible. Let's talk about how we actually operate together and what we really want, and have a conversation as a team, set a list, and then we revisit it on a regular basis to be able to have an honest conversation about where am I slipping and where am I shining. And this helps create accountability, not because I go to Kathy to say, Kathy, you're not following our ground rules. Look, you said this. Like, that's part of it. But even more, on a regular basis, we'll as a team say, hey, take a peek at this in a team meeting and share where you think you're shining here and where's a place that's challenging for you right now. So it gives me the opportunity to have accountability to say, you know what, that whole fighting well thing, I'll be honest, I've been struggling with that. I've been struggling with conflict lately. So it gives the team the chance to both shape those and also speak into them versus you just coming and saying, here's your ground rules, take off your shoes, which is my house. All right, so that's number 3, create ground rules. Number 4 is eliminate waste. Now, I'm not going to do some crazy lean trades or anything, but it's amazing as a business goes on. I have a friend who observed most of us tend to add things and we rarely subtract them. And she takes businesses she works with through an activity she calls zombie hunting. And basically a zombie is a process, a task, something we do that actually sucks more value out of the business than it provides. It's just kind of like a zombie. It's just alive in there and you got to navigate around it. At one point, it actually added value to the business. That's why we do it. We don't do things. I don't know anyone who likes to just waste their time for the sake of wasting time. But over time, if you've been in business 5, 10, 15, 20, 40 years for Kathy, you build habits that helped you at one point in time and then at some point don't. Let me test this out and see if I'm right. Those who I see on the screen, raise your hand if you have kids or know somebody who has kids. All right, that's all of you. Here's the thing. My oldest is 13, my youngest is 4 months. It's amazing to see, and those of you who have older kids who even my age might say, you know what? Kids change over time, and your parenting needs to adjust with it. Same thing, our businesses. Turns out our businesses mature and grow, but we often still, I find myself sometimes treating my 13-year-old like my 7-year-old, and he's just not. And so I have to then adjust my parenting style to the life cycle of my kids, and the same thing in our business. And so a fun activity, you got to be careful with your teams because they'll jump all over this, is to go on a zombie hunting expedition and eliminate the waste and say, what are we doing now that might actually be sucking life and energy from us, which erodes trust because people don't like to waste time and they don't like to do things that they feel like are pointless. Is there a place we need to eliminate waste? Something we need to subtract from what we're doing? Or in some cases, we may say, no, this is actually valuable, but we haven't restated the purpose and the why behind it. So we're not going to kill this, but we are going to adjust it, or at least we're going to revisit the reasons so that people remember why that they are doing something. But to take a hard look at everything we do and say, where are we spending time and where can we give people time back? Nothing builds trust like showing people we care about their time. I think that's a universal thing across business. So eliminating waste is one way that helps us build trust. And then lastly, go slow to go fast. Go slow to go fast. Many of you of us are familiar with that old Marine, and really I've heard every military branch and beyond use it. Slow is smooth, and smooth is steady, or smooth is fast. And this is the same thing with people and with trust. Our research has shown definitively that trust is more like a dimmer switch than it is like a lamp that you just flick on and off. And so, as you put these things in place or anything else, it takes time to build trust. One of the things we'll often do with a team is bring a system. We have a trust platform. We'll bring our platform and system and method for building trust over time. And an owner will often ask me, like, when is this? When am I going to see results? Well, you should see results quickly, but you're not going to see all the results immediately. We're going to turn on the light, but you're still not going to see the full light over time as you have the right strategies and approaches and you work them and they become part of your business and part of your way of being. It will create, and eventually you look and go, wow, the whole room is flooded with light. But a lot of times leaders will come in and they try to artificially manufacture trust. And they'll do a lot of gimmicky things, or they'll just tell people, we're all going to trust each other now. We're going to build trust. Well, talking about trust doesn't build trust. In the same way that talking about taking my wife on a nice vacation is not the same as actually taking her on a vacation. You've heard that the old phrase, it's the thought that counts. It's all about good intentions. Let me tell you what, one year I missed a gift for my wife's our anniversary for my wife. And I quickly learned, didn't do that again. We're 15 years this Thursday, and it's been a while now. But here's what I quickly learned. Good intentions are not the same as intentionality, because I actually thought about that gift a lot. I just didn't execute on it. And it turns out the thought didn't count. So talking about trust, having good intentions about trust, that's fantastic. But you got to put something in place and you got to give it some time, because relationships are built over time as we get to validate and see that the person has my best interest in mind, that they are getting to know me, that we've got ground rules that help create a psychological safety net, because I know what's expected and I know what's not expected. I'm not going to walk on the rug in whatever the version is for the business. And I've got an owner who's looking at ways to make my job easier, not having to do pointless tasks. And so the last piece is, whatever you're going to do, go slow to go fast. Building trust at the fastest I've seen a team create trust rapidly is 3 months. It's often a year-long journey, and then it's a multi-year-long journey to just keep things and maintaining them. In the same way that I try to go to the gym regularly, otherwise my muscles will atrophy. Trust is not something it's one and done. You build it and you go from there. So those are 5 ways, and a bunch of others that you can imagine could come off of that. So here's what I want to have you do. at least one of these resonated, I hope. Maybe just say, I'm going to make people take off their shoes at home, and that's fine. You can take that away too. I'll give you that. Or maybe you took away the basketball is the only sport that God created, and that would be a good takeaway as well. But on a more serious note, here's what I'd love to have you do. I'm going to give you 60 seconds, and I want you to go back to the chat. And there is something that was worth paying attention to, or something about that one strategy that resonated with you. So I would love to hear which of these strategies to build trust and increase productivity resonated the most with you and why. And bonus points if you even share a little bit about what you might do next to actually start to do this. So I'd love to hear which strategy resonated with you and why. And here's a little tip: the more specific you are, the more likely that you're actually going to do something about it after this. So I'll give you 60 seconds, be as specific as possible. What resonated from this list and why? And like I did before, I'm going to take myself off mute, call a couple of you out, and we'll have a great conversation before we wrap up and talk about what's next. All right, 60 seconds is on the timer. Put your comments in the chat. You're welcome to put more than one. And I'm going to call a couple of you out. Good stuff coming in. Take another 30 seconds. Which one resonated the most, and what are you taking away from it? Which one resonated the most, and why? All right, good stuff here. All right, I'm gonna, who do I start with? Todd, I'll start with you. Building trust is a long game. The ground rules create expectations and boundaries for us to use to build trust. Say more about why that resonate with you, and how might you take that with you for your business?
Yeah, I think I'm just realizing that while you can't create trust overnight, while it it's done relationally, getting to know each other, that's work in and of itself. But the ground rules, I think I had kind of a mind blow, and I went, oh, I can, the processes and procedures around here help to create those boundaries and expectations for people to know, so that you can have those conversations around the ground rules or within them, I guess SOPs and processes, etc., to create.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you can keep going. You look like you're about to say more. I love that.
Well, I was just going to say that, that moves towards eliminating the waste, right? So that we're more efficient, as Nicole said.
I believe in creating ground rules as a mechanism for trust so much. I'm going to out myself here. And again, for those of you who don't know me, you're like, Todd, maybe don't bring this guy back. He does weird stuff in his personal life. But okay, 17 years ago, when I started dating my wife, I've been sharing with teams through creating ground rules and having teams do this for that long. And I thought, I wonder if this will work in a relationship. And so I started dating my wife, and I'm not kidding you. A month in, we took a little time, and we both wrote down a list of, we got to know each other a little bit then, so we had a sense of who each other were. Could you write down a list of what you expect from this relationship and get as granular as possible? Like, do you expect to see me Friday and Saturday night or not? Because I don't want to guess. Or do you expect that I will call you every day or not? And it was funny because we came together, had a great conversation, and she's like, yeah, I would like you to call me every day. Cool. I will totally do that. I've got a friend who is met a lovely young woman, and she's getting to know him and his 3 kids. And he just shared with me yesterday, he goes, yeah, we had this difficult conversation because it turns out she needs some personal time, and like I do too, but I didn't want to communicate that. And so we had this difficult conversation. I thought she was ghosting me and not responding, but she just said, hey, I kind of need to hang around the house. And I laughed. And I thought that's why we had that conversation 17 years ago, because I wanted to know I want them to know that up front. And everything, in every relationship in life, whether it's our most intimate personal relationships or work relationships, the more expectations and ground rules are set, the easier it is. And I never had to waste emotional labor wondering, should I call her today or not? Like, no, she's expecting it and I'm expecting it. So let's make that happen. So anyhow, Todd, that was my fun piece on that. Ground rules are powerful. Hey, let's see here. Dennis, you said get to know one another. Thinking of the membership committee, why is each member involved and how can we help them get that? Say more about what grabbed you in terms of getting to know one another.
Well, I just, some might, like, I'm totally into growth and getting bigger. And, there might be some people that are there just to be social, right? And so I don't really know. They might just want to not get left out. And I don't know that, right? So that might inform of some behaviors. And I'm not really there to be social. I've got all the social life I can handle. So I'm there to make stuff happen. So wouldn't that be interesting to get to know each other and why we're all there?
That's really profound, Dennis. I love that. And hey, Nicole, say more, piggyback on that, because your comment was around getting to know each other as well. You said we already work well as a team, but when someone asks for help, or when someone asks for help, but recognizing verbal and non-verbal cues could increase the level of trust. So say more about that from the getting to know each other standpoint.
I think it's just what you said about having a better understanding of like where people are coming from, and who they are as people, not just what they do. Because we're set up that, if you need help, everybody knows if you need help, all you have to do is ask and we'll figure out who the best person is to help you, or if we need to get you time off the phones or whatever needs to happen, we'll make it happen. But just being more aware of that person's body language, the nonverbal cues, in just even if they say something but not specifically asking for help, like what that means for that person.
That's so powerful. And to actually, to your point, get to know and be able to watch for those cues. I've got a team member who is pretty unflappable under pressure. And when she gets a little bit flustered, I've come to learn she's freaking out, but she only shows it a little bit. It's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? No, I'm going into the emergency room. What? So yeah, I guess learning how those people show up it's a powerful thing, and it doesn't happen without intention. So I love that. Tammy, I love that you caught that shared brain is the same in the office is the same as cross training. Say a little bit more about that. I think you're spot on. It's a great insight.
So, well, I used to hate the idea of cross training because I felt like someone was going to take my job. But I actually found it helpful over the years because then I can go on vacation. So we do a lot of cross training there. And when we're out, it's the whole team knows exactly where the other team that member's going to be, just like in your visual of shooting the basketball to someone, you're not even looking at them. So having a shared brain in the office, everyone just can continue to be moving forward.
That's great. I love that. That's a brilliant example of that cross training, and also allows you to demonstrate trust to them by taking the vacation and letting them be able to run things without you, which is that's a great outcome of that. Thanks for sharing. Dawn, don't buy your wife a paper shredder or forget the first Mother's Day. That's a great takeaway too. But I also love you put in there, slow down, to speed up, and get to know each other as well. So say more if you're able to. You might be driving. If you're able to.
No. Yeah,
this
is Don. Can you hear me?
Sure can hear you. Yep.
All right. And I'll give you one guess where I'm driving to. Walla Walla.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Nope, I'm about 15 minutes out. But hey,
you should call. You should hit me up. You should come by. We'll get a glass of wine.
I'll do something. Yeah, I'll shoot you a note when I stop. I got a meeting.
Please do.
But getting to know you, that's huge for me, because I trust somebody when I have the sense that they have my best interests in mind or what's best for me. But how can they have that if they don't even know me, right? And that comes from personal experience lots of years and decades in corporate where you have senior leaders who will say or try and insinuate that they have your best interest in mind, but they've never engaged me, never tried to get to know me, and I don't trust somebody when they haven't done that, even just cursorily.
That's so spot on, Don. And you're reminding me, I think it was in Dr. McKenna's talk that he shared at the conference. How can people trust you if they don't know you, and how can they know you if you don't know yourself? And so going back to that I shared at the beginning of It Starts With Us, I'll call you out, Kathy. Kathy's got a great culture with her team and invest in them. And I've seen Kathy share things about herself that she's learning that with the team that help them understand her. And so they can know her because she knows herself and is able to say, this is what I'm experiencing in these moments, right? And so that's great. And that's a great reminder too. We can know facts about somebody, which is what you feel. You might feel somebody you're engaging with who knows facts about you. They can look you up, but it's different than actually knowing the person and what drives them and what motivates them and how they show up and what they're looking for and what their goals are. Those are the deeper things that take some excavation and interest. And then then you can begin to trust. Yeah, Todd, that's great. Self-awareness is a huge thing. Great stuff here. Kathy, I called you out, so I'll now actually call you out. You said we have a lot going on outside of the actual business. So revisiting the ground rules expectations would be very helpful right now, and looking at eliminating waste within our processes to save time during the day. Say more about those two. What grabbed you? What are you taking away?
Well, and it's probably just for my benefit, which I'm happy to tell the team we need to review these ground rules because I got stressed out this morning. We have team members that have some, things going on, one very serious. And so we need to make sure that the rest of us that are going to hold them up understand where we need to fill in the gaps, right? So therefore, if we can revisit our processes and, is there stuff we're wasting in there just to save time during the day? Because obviously when people are out, it puts more of a burden on the rest of us when there's a small team. So I think that's just making sure that, and it could be just my expectations that I'm not communicating well enough, and so that I'm not picking up the ball every time it gets dropped. They're picking up the ball. So we're in that kind of framework right now.
Yeah, that's good. I love it. Let me pause here. I'm going to share a couple next steps and ways you can take this forward, and I'll give Todd the last word here. But this has been a great conversation. Thanks for digging in there. Any questions you have about any of this that would be valuable? We have a short bit of time, so I won't give you a long drawn out answer. But anything that would be valuable, if that you're thinking of, here's a question I have about building trust and increasing productivity that I can share based on our experience and data, or that someone else here on the call might have a perspective on. What questions do you have? I'll give you a moment if you're thinking about a question, or you can pop in the chat. In fact, let me do this. Let me give you 60 seconds. Put in the chat what questions, or it might not even be a question. It might be a comment or something you're processing from this. Take 60 seconds, put a question or process in the chat. If there's anything meaningful that I can add value to, I'll share, or I might call one of you out as the expert, and then we'll tell you what's coming up. I'll put 60 seconds on the timer. What questions do you have? All right, take another 20 seconds. Todd, how do we decide where to start? That's great. Do the present experience, it would be smart to plan to work on these 5 items when not under as much stress. Be intentional, don't put it off. Yeah, that's a great input, Kathy. Do the work for when you need it. Put those things in place. And again, like I said, start with 1. Do you suggest any resources for implementing some of these strategies? Nicole, it's great. And Dennis, just glad to hear this will affect our memberships committee meeting tomorrow. Great stuff. So yeah, I'll make a couple comments on this, and this will actually tie into my my call to action for you all too. You're right there, Kathy. Put these things in place. I know you've done a lot of these things with your team already, and you can see these things. And Todd, you and I had a conversation about some of the work you did with your team at one point in time. At a critical moment came, and you had that trust bank to draw on. So I would definitely, it's that old adage: when's the best time to plant a tree? 30 years ago. The next best time is today, right? So get started if you can't. In terms of some resources and where to start, I'll jump. Actually, this is a great segue into my call to action. Todd challenged us at the conference to say, let's create the most valuable, this is my words, Todd, the most valuable association that we can, and challenge folks to raise the tide together. And if you're a vendor or a partner, what can you give of significant value to an organization? Not just, I'm here, come work with me. And so one of the things that I asked Todd, how can I help? And he said, do some lunch and learns. I'm like, aye, Captain, sign me up. How else? So we got a couple other things. If you're at the conference, you saw this, and if you're not, I'll tell you. One of the things that we have at Wild, we often say leadership is trust, and now you can measure it. We have a tool called the Wild Trust Index. It's a survey for organizations that measures the levels of trust, the drivers of trust, the personal, the team, and the organizational level, and gives you both a baseline for where you are, so that year over year you could look and see how are we changing, and then a benchmark against other organizations and other industries, because that's valuable to know where you stand as well. If you were to pick up something of equivalency from another organization on the open market, you're going to pay at least 10 to 15K for the size of organizations that most PHCC members are, maybe more. We are offering it to PHCC members at no cost to participate. And what this means is 2 things. You would get a link. You can, I'll send this link out afterwards. You'll get it to, Hillary has asked me for some details to follow up for the conference. So I'll get it to everybody, or you can go here and sign up. And essentially your team would complete this. It's 8 to 10 minutes. We would then analyze the data, create a really robust report, sit with you and anyone else on your ownership team, walk you through what are we seeing, where are the opportunities and drivers, and actually just that tell you where to start. I've got another one, a organization I'm hopping on to share their trust index with immediately after this call, and that's going to be the thing. There's a whole bunch of things they could do. This organization, actually, the CEO came to us knowing that she had a trust issue. So there's a lot that this organization needs. We can't do it all at once. And so we've got the data to be able to show her this is going to be the immediate starting point. That's going to have the best bang for your buck. Here's some things that we can help you with if you want to partner with us. And here's some things that you can do on your own that will help address those items. And then again, next year, we'll be able to give her a baseline of how she has changed. Kathy's team has actually already recently completed this, and we're going to be scheduling a time to walk that through her. She's got a super strong trusting team. And so it doesn't mean there's a trust issue. It could just be we're making a lot of exciting changes. We're positioning for and growing. And so we want to make sure we have a pulse on trust so we can accelerate it as we grow. Like, that's a great reason to do this as well. So we are getting it at no cost to PHCC members. Love to talk to you about that. And from that, we'll have some really clear ways to advise you that we can help with if you want to engage. And if not, that's fine. We're here to serve you as part of PHCC. We take Todd's challenge and we're all in. And if there is anything we can do with our services or tools, we'll give 10% off to anyone at PHCC who engages with us. And so that's our commitment, Todd, to all y'all. I hope you can take us up on that, and look forward to serving you. With that, Todd, I'll give you the last 3 minutes. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you, Daniel. That was a fantastic presentation in my mind, because I've attended a number of your presentations, and that was one of the best that I've come across. Very practical, lots of good stuff. And Daniel, I could tell Wild is all in with us. So as we begin to craft our future and the value of our association, I have strong anticipations that Wild will be a key part of that. Thank you, Daniel. And thank you to everyone else for being here today. Hope you all have a great day, and we will see you on the next one next month.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, y'all, for your engagement. See you soon.